A power grid does not have to disappear for days to reveal how dependent a modern home really is. The moment it fails, hundreds of ordinary routines stop at once. At first, the change feels simple. The lights go out, the television turns black, the air becomes unusually quiet, someone checks the breaker panel, someone else looks outside to see whether neighboring homes are dark too. For a few minutes, most people assume the interruption will be brief. They reach for a phone, open the utility website, and wait for an estimated restoration time. Maybe the power will return before dinner, maybe the refrigerator will stay cold, maybe the phone battery will last long enough, but when the outage continues, the problem begins to expand. The refrigerator is no longer removing heat. The freezer is slowly losing its stored cold. The Wi-Fi router is off, phone batteries are dropping, electric cooking equipment is unavailable. Depending on the home, heating, cooling, water pumps, security systems, and medical equipment may also stop working. Nothing dramatic has to happen all at once. The pressure builds quietly. People begin making logical adjustments. They keep the refrigerator closed. They use flashlights instead of candles. They reduce phone use. They unplug devices in case the power returns with unstable voltage. They move everyone into one room and try to conserve whatever resources remain. These steps help, but they do not restore the missing infrastructure. That is the frustrating part. A household can become extremely careful and still remain completely dependent on a system it cannot control. The family may reduce consumption, organize supplies, and avoid unnecessary activity, yet none of that produces electricity. The visible problem is that the power is out. The hidden problem is that almost every essential function in the home was designed around the assumption that the grid would always be available. That assumption works most of the time, which is why it is easy to overlook. Electricity arrives through the wall so consistently that people stop thinking about the structure behind it. Power plants generate energy. Transmission lines move it across long distances, substations adjust voltage, local distribution lines carry it into neighborhoods. Protective systems constantly monitor the network. A home sits at the end of that chain. When one important part of the chain fails, the effect can spread far beyond the original problem. Severe weather may damage lines. Equipment may fail. Fires or emergency shutdowns may interrupt service. High demand can place pressure on parts of the system. The individual household has very little influence over any of those events. This is why a power outage feels so disproportionate. The original failure may be miles away, yet the consequences appear immediately inside the kitchen, bedroom, garage, and home office. The real issue isn't that one electrical line stopped working. It's that the home has no independent layer between normal service and complete loss of power. That is the turning point in understanding outages. Most people think of backup electricity as a way to recreate normal life during an emergency. They imagine running every light, appliance, screen, heating system, and kitchen device as if nothing happened, but that creates an unrealistic standard. A backup system does not have to replace the entire grid to be useful. It may only need to protect the small group of functions that matter most. That could mean refrigeration, it could mean communication, it could mean basic lighting, it could mean keeping selected medical equipment operating, it could mean charging phones, maintaining a router, or preserving access to information. Once the goal becomes more specific, the problem becomes easier to understand. A small backup system may not power an entire house, but it may provide enough electricity to keep a few essential devices operating for a limited period. The usefulness of that system depends on four things: where its energy comes from, how much power it can deliver, how much energy it can store or produce, and what devices are connected to it. Those details matter more than the physical size of the unit. A compact battery may easily support phones, LED lights, and a router. Refrigeration may require more power, especially when the compressor starts. Large heating devices, electric stoves, central air conditioning systems, and other high-demand appliances may exceed what a small system can handle. This is why connecting everything at once can quickly create another failure. Imagine the available backup power as a limited emergency budget. Every device spends part of it. Some devices use very little, others consume a large share. If the household spends too much power on convenience, less remains for refrigeration, communication, or other essential needs. That does not mean comfort is unimportant. It means priorities matter when the supply is limited. Runtime matters too. A system may be able to turn on a refrigerator, lamp, and router during a short demonstration. That does not reveal how long it can continue supporting them. A blackout lasting 1 hour is different from one lasting overnight. An outage lasting several days creates a completely different challenge. The system may need to be recharged, refueled, or connected to another energy source. Without that next step, stored power eventually runs out. This is why emergency preparation is not simply about purchasing a device. It is about understanding the structure of the household's dependence. Which functions stop when the grid fails? Which of those functions are truly essential? How much power do they require? How long may they need to operate? What happens when the backup source is depleted? These questions reveal whether a system fits the actual situation. They also reduce confusion during the outage itself. Without a plan, people tend to respond to the first problem they notice. They connect lights, televisions, computers, kitchen devices, and chargers. Then a refrigerator starts, the total load rises, and the backup system shuts down. The equipment may not have failed. The household may simply have asked it to support too much at once. A more grounded approach is to accept that an outage changes the rules temporarily. The goal is not to pretend the grid never failed. The goal is to preserve safety, communication, food, medication, and basic stability until normal service returns. This perspective also reduces blame. People are not careless for depending on the grid. Modern homes were built around that dependence. Most appliances, services, and daily routines assume reliable electricity. The important shift is recognizing that dependence before an emergency exposes it. A small, independent power layer can provide more control, but only when its limits are understood. It should be evaluated by what it can reliably support, not by vague promises about powering everything. When the grid suddenly fails, the first few minutes reveal the inconvenience. The next few hours reveal the structure. The household discovers which systems were connected, which resources were limited, and which functions mattered most. That awareness is valuable even before any backup device is considered. There is a structured breakdown in the description for anyone who wants to understand compact home energy and emergency power more carefully. Subscribe for more practical explanations about outages, backup systems, and household energy resilience. A blackout becomes less confusing when the priorities are already clear.